When I was growing up, I was taught that all debt is bad. Avoid debt at all costs. If you owe anybody money, you're not in a good place. But now that I've been in my business and I've been a financial planner for 13 years, I am here to tell you that that belief that a lot of us have is not right. It is not accurate. And that belief alone is actually what's keeping a lot of people broke. So in the next few minutes, I'm gonna help you not only understand the differences between good debt and bad debt, but also what's the specific number that you should be looking for that separates the people that are using debt to build wealth versus those that are using debt to destroy their wealth, so that you can immediately start to reprioritize how you're paying down your debt, how you're using debt. And stick around until the end, because I'm gonna go through a real life example of how wealthy people leverage debt in not only a good and an efficient way, but how they leverage it so that it's working for them both in the stock market and in the real estate market as well. It's how wealthy people make more and more money, and it's a strategy that most people are not aware of. I have a debt calculator that I specifically designed so that you can help understand which debts to prioritize, which to leave alone, simulate a future situation for yourself on how to utilize the stock market and the real estate market by leveraging good debt in the process. This whole framework comes down to one very simple question. Does this debt cost more or less than what your money could earn somewhere else? It's literally as straightforward as that. The line I use is 8%. The reason I use 8% is because historically, the S&P 500 or the stock market on average over a 20-year time frame averages about 10 to 12% in long-term return. So for debt purposes and understanding the differences between good and bad debt, we like to use 8% as that marker, because even though long-term averages in the stock market are 10 to 12%, we can't reasonably assume that every year it's going to perform that well. So 8% is a little bit more of a conservative marker for that. So to put that into practice, very simply, if your debt costs more than 8%, that's wealth destroying debt, because you can't reasonably get a greater return consistently that's greater than 8%. If it's lower than 8%, most likely you want to leave that debt alone and just pay the minimum. All right, so let's take a look at the debt timeline. On the right-hand side, we have bad debt. So this is costing you more than you can actually earn in the stock market on a reasonable basis. Debt that destroys wealth are things like personal loans that are 12 or 18% in interest, hard money loans, especially buy now, pay later. So like Klarna, Shopify, PayPal, any of those payment services, just so you know, they do now report to your credit report as well. That was something that changed recently, so make sure you keep that in mind. Credit cards have anywhere from 22 to 30% in interest rates, payday loans, 300% plus. Anything on this side of the line is actively draining your wealth every single day that you hold it. So the priority is very simple: eliminate it as fast as humanly possible. And you can use my calculator as well. The link will be in the description so that you can figure out which ones to prioritize based on how much extra money you can put towards each debt per month. Now let's take a look at the good debt side of the timeline. So this is things like your mortgage or a HELOC, which stands for home equity line of credit. We have student loans, auto loans, securities-based line of credit. We're gonna go through that in a little bit. These are all interest rates that are typically less than 8%. And even though interest rates are pretty high right now, these are still below that threshold, and we would consider them to be good debts in general. So for the good debt side of our timeline, we want to make sure that we are paying the minimums on those. You know, a common thing that I see all the time is people have some extra money in the budget and they want to overpay on their car loan simply to pay it off sooner. That's one of the biggest mistakes I think that someone could make, outside of paying for a car in cash, literally. I work with clients of all ages, all financial demographics, and the car is always a topic of conversation when it's time to get a new car. Should I buy? Should I lease? Should I pay for it in cash if I have the cash? And the answer is no, absolutely not. Personally, I think literally one of the worst financial decisions somebody could make is paying for a car in cash. That is literally taking $50,000 and putting it into quicksand that is just draining money every day. Every day you drive, every mile, every day that passes, that car is literally losing value. And on top of that, you probably have a decent interest rate, especially if you have a good credit score, anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5% on a car loan. So do not pay for a car in cash. Why not instead take $5,000 for the down payment and invest the $45,000 into something that can make you 8, 9, 10% in the stock market or anywhere else other than a car that literally just loses value every single day. I understand the emotion behind wanting to pay the car off sooner because you just want to clear that payment altogether, but I can promise you there are other ways to maximize your money than just paying off your car as quickly as possible. So don't make that mistake, please. So that same logic doesn't just apply on paying for a car in cash, but also if you have an extra $500 a month That's another question I get. Again, just trying to overpay on that payment. Just pay the minimum and deploy that $500 into something else that's gonna make you more money. For example, the stock market in a well-diversified growth portfolio. Now listen, one of the most important parts of actually being able to utilize good debt is the fact that good debt needs a launching pad. It needs a basis of liquidity in order to really operate efficiently. And one note on good debt, we're not just talking about the interest rate, but also keep in mind that typically wealthy people use good debt not to finance living expenses or travel, but to specifically acquire assets that accumulate in value and provide income into your life. And that's what we want to be doing, is understanding how to leverage debt in the right way. On my 30% debt rule video that I had posted a little bit ago, that really goes into a lot of detail on that. So definitely watch that video next. But getting back to the importance of having liquidity to leverage good debt. One of the biggest mistakes that I see high income earners, especially between 25 and 45, they are making every day is overfunding their 401k. I know that our parents or society has told us to max out your 401k so that you can retire someday. I personally feel like that's an outdated way of thinking and planning, because our generation is not going to just get by in retirement by simply having one 401k with a large balance. It's a finite number. Anything can go wrong in retirement and people can blow through that. So what we want to do now is invest or contribute the 401k match, but most likely it's going to make sense to deploy anything else that you can save or invest into liquid buckets like a high yield savings account or a brokerage account, so that you can use those buckets in the short term to build more wealth rather than just unilaterally in the stock market with all of that money stuck in your 401k, which you can't touch until you're 60 without severe penalties and taxes from the IRS. They will literally annihilate you if you try to take it out early. So we need to avoid making those mistakes when it comes to where you're positioning your money every single year. So the two buckets that exist that actually give you the ability to leverage or borrow against it are your high yield savings account, or like cash buckets, and your investment brokerage account. Retirement accounts like a 401k, a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, you are not able to actually borrow against them. And the reason why I'm saying borrow against them is because similar to how you can borrow against the equity in your property, you can borrow against your investment portfolio or your cash account. And the whole point of doing that is we allow the money in your brokerage account to grow in the stock market, hopefully earning 8, 9, 10, 11+% on average over time. And imagine borrowing against that while the money's working for you, and then using that line of credit that you just pulled against your own brokerage account to secure your next investment property. That's now gonna produce cash flow for you to then go ahead and pay off the line of credit that you just took against your own investment account. That's how we build wealth. That's what the wealthy do in very, very simplistic terms. Now, typically a securities-based line of credit, the minimum is $100,000. So in order to be able to leverage that, you need around $150,000, $155,000 in your brokerage account, because if the brokerage account is invested in the stock market, you can leverage up to 65% of it. So in order to actually get a $100,000 line of credit approved, having roughly $155,000 in that portfolio allows you to open up that minimum line size of about $100,000. So now let's go through a hypothetical scenario, assuming you have $250,000 in your brokerage account, 2 jobs at once. So imagine you have $250,000 sitting there, it's growing in the stock market, and let's just say it's averaging a 10% rate of return, because over the long run, that's what the market does. So the first thing that happens is that's adding about $25,000 on average, based on average market performance, in income into your portfolio every year. And with that $250,000, if you were to leverage 65% of it, you can take out about $162,500 line of credit that you can then use to purchase your investment property or invest in something else. One of the most important pieces of this, since you're leveraging against your portfolio, you're not selling your shares, there's no taxes involved, no capital gains, you're just borrowing against it, and you don't pay taxes on a debt. And so now what you just did was you allowed the $250,000 to continue to grow while you took the 160 grand out and purchased your investment property. So now that money's working for you in both areas. I know this may sound too good to be true, or maybe sounds a little bit complex. And if it is, I will be doing more videos on this specifically, because it's literally the #1 way to build wealth. But just know that my main goal today is to open your eyes to why we need to be really rethinking where we're putting our money on a regular basis, because once it's in your 401k, it's stuck there. This is one of the main things I start my wealth execution program in with my high income earners, where we are putting together a fully optimized cash flow management system that you own to make sure that you are putting the right money in the right buckets every single month, every single year, so that you can then start to deploy strategies like this. If you're interested in applying for that program, the link is in the description. Please feel free to reach out. So again, to wrap this up, one of the main things to keep in mind, the framework is one line, 8%. If your debt is more expensive than 8%, aggressively pay it off as soon as possible. Nothing else matters. Bad debt does not have to be your enemy as long as you understand it and you have a strategy in mind and you're not abusing it. But good debt is your path to financial freedom. If this changed how you think about debt, please subscribe to my channel. I'm a new channel and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I plan to really grow my channel and be a really great resource for you, from financial education, decisions, strategizing, and any support absolutely helps. So please subscribe. And if this did help you and you were more interested in learning more about the 30% debt rule, stick around for the next video because it goes into that in great detail.